Hi y'all, I'm Simone, and if you've been watching the news or if you've been paying attention to social media, then you would know that the Black Lives Matter movement has become very relevant, which is awesome. With a lot of people showing their support for the movement, I figured that I would just share my opinions, my personal experiences with racism, and what people can do in everyday lives to stop it. Because yes, it is awesome that people are donating to different organizations or go to protests. That's awesome. Even posting infographics or pictures that support awareness on your story, like, that's really awesome. But I think that if we're already this far, then take it a step further. So let's get started. Basically, systemic racism is institutionalized racism, essentially. Like in healthcare, police brutality, education, housing, etc., etc. But it's not really explained in the media, I want to say, because I've heard people just say, oh, well, I mean, black people are just lazy. Lazy, no, it's not a gene. Like, lazy, nobody is inherently lazy. Funding, history behind it, white flight, etc. That's why the opportunities and the gateway to quote success, that's why it's there. There's a lot to do in terms of educating yourselves on history and educating yourself on what you can do to move it forward and increase economic, political, and social equality in that sense. And I have experienced people getting defensive on saying, like, oh, no, like, I'm not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body, but I mean, like, they say racist things and they don't even know it. But hear me out. You're at an event one day and you need to wear an all-white shirt, and there are two people. One person gets handed a white shirt, it's brand new, all clean. Then the other person gets the same white shirt, except it has stains. It's just not in good condition. And so people at the event, they see the person in the brand new clean shirt as, wow, this person takes care of themselves, they get new clothes, or they keep their clothes in good condition, all clean shirt. And then you see the person with the shirt that's not in good condition. The person takes care of themselves very well, keep everything in good condition, but you would never know that because their shirt says otherwise, but they just inherited that shirt. And so now people are seeing this person and they see that their shirt is all dirty, and then that translates to, oh, well, if that person doesn't wash their clothes, they're lazy. And so I think when you acknowledge, well, number one, they didn't choose that shirt, they just got it. And number two, if the person with the stained shirt says, hey, I got a dirty shirt, and the response is, well, I mean, we both have white shirts. Like, it's not like you didn't get a shirt at all. And I guess when I say that, that's equivalent to, well, I mean, we both have equal things, aka the white shirts. And it's not like you don't have a shirt at all, which applies to a level of racism in the past. But I mean, the goal is to have two clean white shirts, because that then equals two equal forms of opportunity. At the end of the day, us kids or teenagers, we go back to school, and besides donating, posting on your Instagram story, protesting, which is all amazing, don't get me wrong, there is so much more that we can do in our own communities, in our own homes, in our own friend groups, schools, blah, 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 to combat racism, which is the goal here. And so let's start. Acknowledgement of microaggressions. And microaggressions are subtle examples of racism. Saying, you talk black, or you sound black, or you don't sound black, or you don't talk black. Okay, first of all, we all know what that means. When you say, oh my gosh, well, I wasn't being racist, I didn't say anything racist, you didn't have to, because it's implied that you sound refined, which means black people don't sound refined or quote educated. Or saying like, oh my gosh, your straight hair is so pretty, why don't you straighten your hair more? But nobody ever says, your hair looks so pretty natural, or your hair looks so pretty curly. Not just to me, but just to other people with curly hair too. And that's why a lot of people feel the need to strive to achieve Eurocentric beauty standards, but we're gonna get to that later. But saying, why don't you straighten your hair more, that's implying that straight hair is more pretty and curly hair is inferior. When teachers or even students have gotten me mixed up with another black person, because we'll be the only two black people in the room, we don't even look alike, heck, we couldn't even be sisters, but they'll get us mixed up. And that is again a form of racism, because it's dehumanizing, because everybody wants to be their own person no matter what race you are. We're all unique, and so just equating the two black people in the room together but not anybody else, that's a form of racism. Using the N-word, my goodness gracious, I have heard it so many times, and what's the response? It's always, oh my gosh, well, I have a black friend, and they told me I could say it, whatever. I mean, number one, either you should probably talk to your friend. Number two, I even saw a thread on Instagram that a lot of the time, and like I fully agree with it, is that a lot of the time when a non-black person will make a joke about a black person, or even when a white person will make a joke about another minority, I think that we're all so shocked, or we don't really quote know what to do, so we just play along or laugh along, which at the end of the day, I fully understand that you can only control your own actions, but at the same time, when that's all you're surrounded, it just creates a sense of fear. Or when people are around you are ignorant. Using the N-word, that is wrong for so many reasons for a non-black person to use the N-word. Educate yourself on it. You know what I mean? Okay, so another thing is appropriation. See it all the diggity darn time. I see it in social media. Well, appropriation, like cornrows, dreadlocks. Just understand that they're protective styles. It's not that hard. I've seen when black girls or black people in general are called like loud and ghetto and angry. The angry black girl stereotype is definitely alive and well. Again, I've witnessed with my own two eyes black people being looked at just like in a taboo way, because like they're literally having fun and hanging out with their friends. But when a white group of friends is just as loud and is having fun, they're seen as silly or fun or they're just having a good time. And so really acknowledging the difference speaks volumes. And then this has happened to me, somebody has said this to me, we were all in a car and then I guess the lock just turned on. I don't know. Maybe the driver just like rested their hand on the lock or something. But somebody said, oh my gosh, why'd you lock the doors? Is a black person coming? And again, that implies that black people are a threat. And so even if you're in an elevator or something, or you're at a store and you clutch your bag because you think that a black person is going to steal, even if it's subconsciously, still acknowledge that yes, that is racist. Saying all black people look the same. Again, a person was right in front of me and they said, oh my gosh, you know who so-and-so looks like? They totally look like so-and-so. And then the other person said, why do you say that? Is it because all black people look the same? And keep in mind, these two people who were talking were not even black. And so that shows that they believe in somewhat what they're saying if they say that out loud, not in a joking way. And so again, that's dehumanizing. It takes away the uniqueness of each person as a person and just groups them together as black people, which of course it's super important to acknowledge a person's race, culture, ethnicity, nationality, because the term I don't see color, that's also wrong. But you need to also see people for who they are and what they bring to the table culturally, rather than just seeing them or disregarding them as just, oh, another black person. Using a black person as a crutch, I have experienced this, members of my family have experienced this, when friends of theirs, no longer, will say the craziest stuff, but their response will be like, oh my gosh, I have a black friend. so I can't be racist. And that ties in with the N-word too, but nobody gave you a pass to say anything, and I don't want to be used as a crutch, as sort of just the one black person there, or like not necessarily the token black friend, but in a lot of situations, yeah, that's how it is. And depending on where you live, depending on where you grew up, like me, I live in a area where the black community is little to none. A lot of the times I am the only black person in a group or in a class, etc., etc. And so people just, and this just doesn't happen with me, like this happens in so many TV shows. It's just super normal per se, and I think that that just prevents exposure to racial integration, and it sort of enforces using black person as well. Oh, the one black friend, I have one black friend, so I can say whatever I want. And again, we'll get into that later. But oh yeah, that's another thing, speaking of like the token black friend. I have been in places and then people will get out their phones, and because I'm black, they'll be like, oh my gosh, Simone, dance, like we have to get it on Snapchat. Because it'll be like a rap song. But it didn't come from a place of, wow, like, it did not come from a place of, wow, oh my gosh, Simone is a good dancer. It came from a place of, Simone is black, so we're gonna have to dance to this rap song, and we're gonna have to get her on tape because she's black. And believe it or not up front, but in your heart, you know that it's true. Oh yeah, okay, so another thing, I was in class and we were doing a Socratic seminar, and if you don't know what that is, that's just a thing at school. We were talking about like slavery, and this girl said, oh, well, I mean, at least we gave slaves new life here in America. And I don't even think that I need to go into that. That is just wrong on so many levels. But everybody was like, yeah, like, okay. That's, again, enforcing that, number one, black people come from nothing and we gave them this life here. And even, like, black people come from nothing in Africa. That's something that's enforced a lot. But, I mean, that has so much to do with colonization, etc., etc. Another thing is in class, in a different class, a question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is racism still today? 10 being absolutely none at all, 1 being like back in the 1600s. And so everybody said about a 7, like a 6 to 7, and I was the only person in the class that said about a 3. I said a 3, and everybody looked at me like, what? But guys, it's because, just because somebody is not going up to you and punching you, just because somebody isn't bullying you up to your face, doesn't mean that they still can't talk behind your back. Meaning, just because we can sit together on a bus, or just because we can go to the same bathroom, doesn't mean that subtle racism doesn't exist. In fact, subtle racism is huge on top of things like police brutality and economic differences. That's just my 2 cents on that. Bunch of things, but going back to Eurocentric beauty standards, that's definitely something that you can take account of, and it's definitely still enforced. For example, look at like the heartthrobs. I don't like that word at all. Heartthrob. But anyways, stars who are seen as super attractive in the media, notice one thing. They're all white. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. And like, honestly, you can't help who you think is attractive. It's instinctual. But that just goes to show, it enforces Eurocentric beauty standards, because it shows that, okay, this person who has Eurocentric features and is white is seen as the epitome of beauty. They're saying that white people, white movie stars, singers, famous people are the epitome of beauty, and that enforces Eurocentric beauty standards. Even I looked up a pretty girl, like what a pretty girl looks like, and the only thing that came up was pictures of white girls. No pictures of any other person, and again, there's quote nothing that you can do about that directly because it's so engraved. But definitely something that can be taken account of, even appreciating other people's beauty, reflecting on how beauty is seen in your own community. That can go a long ways. But then that translates into fetishism, and I know that a lot of people, even the movie Get Out, that there's literally a movie made about like fetishism, and it's when non-black people fetishize black people and see them as like a prop, almost saying like, oh, do you have jungle fever? Number one, jungle fever, really? And so that's also a form of racism, because you're not seeing the person for who they actually are.